Hello, today this is my audience. A little Argentine boy, nicknamed Chancho, which means pig, was teased for skipping baths and wearing dirty clothes. Knowing what it's like to be teased for being unclean, this boy grew up to be a doctor who treated patients in leper colonies all across South America. He realized how badly the sick and poor were treated, and he was inspired to provide a medicine that could cure inequality. That doctor was Ernesto Che Guevara. Che's often dismissed because of his violent and authoritarian tactics or glorified as a selfless freedom fighter. As McCormick and Berger state, he is an authentic true believer who dreamed that it might be possible to one day forge a utopian society of new men. This speech aims to give you a more nuanced version of Che Guevara as a true believer with revolutionary ideals that we can learn from today. I've learned about Che Guevara for years, looking through documentaries, videos, and now academic journals to learn more about this Cold War figure. Che Guevara said, "Many call me an adventurer, and that I am, only one of a different sort, one who risks his skin to prove his truths. His truths that we should embrace for our own small revolutions are love, solidarity, and justice. Who doesn't want to make the world a better place? Che can still lead us today." So let's get started on who this man really was. So most of you guys and most people probably know who Che is and have preconceived notions of him, but many do not know a lot about his life and accomplishments. As the author Shannon Brickhat stated, Che's legacy has not been seriously studied. I know sometimes I feel overwhelmed and helpless when I see injustice, and I don't even know where to start. Che's truths really helped me get me going. Before you follow a leader, you need to know who you're following and what values they have. Understanding Che's life and accomplishments can help people determine if he's truly worth learning from. As with any human being, Che is not perfect, but there are many key takeaways from his life that can inspire us to change our community. So, let's begin. In 1952, Che traveled across Latin America on his motorcycle, and what the privileged medical students saw shocked him. Che Guevara later wrote in his experience at the time in his book Motorcycle Diaries. At the Chiquimata copper mine in Chile, Che Guevara wrote the workers were destroying their health for meager crumbs that were enough to live on. In Peru, he called the Incas a defeated race that were poorly treated in their own country by the ruling elite. At the leper colony at San Pablo, he saw patients treated so badly because they were poor. In one instance, he even treated an old woman for her asthma who was forced to work as a waitress to just get by. Guevara also had asthma and was able to treat it easily because he was middle class, and he was struck and saddened that the asthma for this woman was a death sentence. On his motorcycle tour, Che's motorcycle eventually broke down, and he was treated like, in his words, a bum without wheels. Because of this, because people thought he was poor. He contrasted how he was treated when people knew he was a doctor and experienced firsthand the disparity of how classes were treated. At the end of his motorcycle tour, he met the exiled Castro brothers in Mexico City, where he agreed on their mission to overthrow the United States dictatorship in Cuba. According to Alex Gindler's TED video, the region's governments were brutal oligarchies. Colonialism may have formally ended, but the elites still controlled all the wealth. American corporations bought up land originally seized from indigenous people and used it for profit and export, even keeping it most of it uncultivated while locals starved. When Che and the rest of the revolutionaries made it to Cuba, they worked with other opposition groups to overthrow the Batista dictatorship, with Fidel Castro as their leader. Che was able to get a following because he united squabbling groups with a common goal, and he listened to the poor's requests of enough food and medicine. People wanted to follow Che because they felt seen. He said that the life of a single human being is worth 1,000,000 times more than all the property of the richest man on earth. No one had ever treated people of Cuba with this kind of love, ensuring solidarity for his cause. Once in power, his programs, such as Medicare reforms, land redistribution, and education programs, helped many people have a more stable life, giving good education, land, and healthcare where they had that before. Che developed a free doctors program called the Cuban Medical Internationalism that sent doctors all around the world for humanitarian aid, including during the Angolan Civil War, helping the people that were facing the horrors of war. He even helped the man who killed him eventually by having a doctor from his program give him eye surgery, which is quite ironic, but these policies have continued to save lives to this day, letting Che Guevara give a helping hand beyond the grave. Che did so many great things, but I don't want to gloss over his mistakes. The new government in Cuba that he supported banned opposition. This led to many political arrests while he was in Cuba, which sometimes had violent resolutions. He also supported violent attacks against political opponents. Knowing Che's earlier years and his values of love, solidarity, and justice that led him on a revolutionary path, I see his support as violence and authoritarianism as an abandonment of those values. We can learn a valuable lesson in both his accomplishments and his mistakes by remembering to stay true to our values. What can we learn from Che to help the world around us as he did? Well, I'm assuming nobody here is a guerrilla fighter, so that route is not really an option, nor to recommend his authoritarian tactics. But let's start with love, like Che did. He gave up the comfortable middle-class lifestyle and the prestige of being a doctor because he took the time to see and understand the suffering of others. Taking time for others is crucial in understanding inequality and how you can help. Doing an action each day, like helping someone across the street or giving someone a compliment, makes all the difference. After all, Che does mean friend. Solidarity. Che united several groups for the cause of making Cuba a better place. Yes, his legacy is divisive, but it is his intent to bring people together to make sure everyone's basic needs were met. But his intent was to... I can think of no better example than today's politically divisive climate, where in reality we probably agree on more than we disagree on, and we need to search for solidarity to keep moving forward. Finally, justice. Che believed that people should be held accountable for their actions and that decisions should be made for the benefit to the most amount of people possible. I think we can agree that everyone deserves enough to eat and have access to medical care. These are just and noble causes. Che Guevara still lives on, but I'll let this speech live on in your mind. Today I taught you about the values that Che Guevara believed in throughout his life, and how these ideas of love, solidarity, and justice transcend time and space. As Che Guevara said, the true revolutionary is guided by a great feeling of love. It is impossible to think of a genuine revolutionary without this quality. And this is how I want to live my life. That's the end of my speech.